This video is brought to you by CuriosityStream. Hello noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. If you have a minute, I'd like to tell you a story. As I always do in the evening, I was having a great time watching videos from content creators that I like. But then I had an idea, how about I just look up medieval history and see if I can find some nice new channels that I don't know about. And then I ran into this. Just don't click it. Just don't click it. Metatron, just ignore it. Pretend you didn't see it. You have to resist. Just don't click. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just don't. You need to use your willpower. I told myself repeatedly as I was going through a manic episode. Just don't. Just leave it. You know, just leave it like that. I'm not going to watch it. That's what I thought. I'm not going to watch it. Just going to leave. Didn't see that. And that's the end of the story. Okay, so medieval madness. Here we come. I'm not trying to attack or shame the creator of this channel, but I'd like to say he makes so many arguments that I want to attack, that at the end of the day I can't help but being honest about it and say that this channel, Medieval Madness, is a complete mess. Well, let's begin from the video that I began with yesterday, which is its latest video that has to do with the samurai in Japan. Check this out.
For almost 700 years, these disciplined warriors were respected and feared in Japan, and they carved out a path that made themselves legends across the world. These highly disciplined men and women, with their light armor and super sharp blades, made European knights look like clumsy amateurs.
So, you want to tell me that you have an entire channel branded on the medieval period with knights in armor being part of your branding, and then you say something like this?
Their impressive armor was made from the individual scales of either iron or leather, coated with a thick waterproof lacquer and sewn together with silk cord to form a breastplate. This meant it was more durable and lighter than English chainmail, and samurai could even wade through waist-deep water and still be...
This idea, the samurai armor, is inherently lighter when compared to medieval European armor is completely false. We have debunked it a million times. The armor you're showing is the oyoroi, and that one would have been about 30 kilograms, so around 60 pounds, and most of the weight would have been on the shoulders. Now, it wasn't the only type of samurai armor that was available, and there were lighter configurations, but the one you're showing is the heaviest one that was absolutely heavier than European male armor. Most of the weight would have been on the shoulders, not at the waist like with later types. That a full oyoroi will weigh more and be heavier than my full plate suit of armor. Never mind chainmail.
Made European knights look like clumsy amateurs.
This is a really bad look for a channel that is all about the medieval period. You've seen nothing.
We all know the kind of things we'd find during the medieval age.
I honestly don't think you do. No disrespect.
But what actually was the medieval age? The answer to this has as much to do with early Renaissance woke culture as it does
Did he just say... Did he just say woke culture? Renaissance woke culture? It must be a joke.
Opposed to the Dark Ages before them, they were a world apart, logical, intelligent, and progressive. How woke those Renaissance nobles were compared to those silly medieval nobles.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, Metatron, maybe you're taking him too literally. Perhaps he's just being sarcastic. There are 3 reasons why I don't think he is. Number 1, his entire channel is filled with modern, politically charged terminology.
The Byzantine Emperor Justinian had an intense dislike for homosexuality. He blamed homosexuals for floods and earthquakes, not unlike the Christian right today, who claimed that natural disasters are the wrath of God because of lesbians and gay men.
You're generalizing. Not everyone is an extremist or a fundamentalist. You have conservative Christians, you have conservative atheists, you have liberal atheists, you have liberal Christians. You're basically using history as a tool to attack political parties you disagree with or push political parties you agree with. 2. The most prominent position he brings forth constantly is that of presentism. We people in the modern age are so intelligent and smart and great, but people in the medieval period were a bunch of idiots and evil. Number 3, he basically says, oh, these stupid, silly medieval people that were all superstitious. And then I'm not joking. Look at the sponsor he has on his channel.
Purple Garden helps connect you with talented psychic, tarot, and astrology advisors who are all vetted and voted for by people like you. And you can change advisor each time depending on what you need. If you're looking for clarity, go to purplegarden.com/.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You keep making fun of medieval people for being superstitious, and then you present superstition to your subscribers for money. He gets backlash from it, as expected, and he keeps doing it. It's a recurring sponsor on his channel. Now don't get me wrong, I have nothing against creators and sponsors, I have them myself including on this video. But you gotta be coherent, mate. And talking about this video sponsor. But now I'd like to take a moment to mention the kind sponsor that made this video possible, CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is the best place to find documentaries about science, history, technology, travel, nature, and much more. CuriosityStream is a subscription-based streaming service that offers thousands of documentaries and non-fiction titles from some of the world's best film makers, including exclusive originals, plus the deepest collection of documentaries from around the world. One of the reasons why CuriosityStream is a really good choice is because it's deeper than any other streaming services out there, dropping new content every week. The content spans over a wide range of topics, as I was saying, history, nature, technology, but also military history, food, music. There is something for everyone in there. Moreover, CuriosityStream is available not only worldwide, but on a variety of different platforms. You can use it on the web, on TV, through Roku, Xbox Smart TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and of course on all mobile devices. If this is the sort of thing you're interested in, then I highly recommend you to check out CuriosityStream. There are two documentaries that I would like to bring to your attention because I've been watching them and I've been really enjoying them. The first one is about the incident at Pompeii and the volcanic explosions that happened in ancient Rome. Really well made, and if you are into ancient Rome, then the second documentary series that you should totally check out is Rome, the world's first superpower. You won't regret it. Go to curiositystream.com/Metatron or use my QR code for unlimited access to the world's top documentaries and non-fiction series. And for the fans of the Metatron's channel, you can use the code Metatron for a 25% off. So click the link in the description below or go to curiositystream.com/Metatron to save 25%, and at the same time you will be supporting my channel. And as always, thank you so much to CuriosityStream for sponsoring my video.
The Middle Ages, also popularly known as the Dark Ages, was invented and popularized by the Italian Renaissance scholar and poet Petrarch. Here they were, reading Pythagoras, Aristotle and Plato, and discovering the beauty of classically designed architectural ruins like the Colosseum and the Pantheon, while everyone just blindly read the Bible and waited for the world to end. How close-minded, how dark, how medieval.
So here's the thing, one more myth that is spreading. This idea that in 1000 AD people were expecting the age of the end of the world and they were all there trembling reading their Bibles. This is a massive myth. Let me address it very briefly. The myth of the fears of the year 1000 is, well, a myth. It's what historians and writers in the 1800s believed about the medieval period. For example, Carducci in his Discorsi sullo svolgimento della letteratura nazionale, History of Italian Literature. We are full of historical documents from, for example, year 999, and they operate and are written normally. For example, the papal bull from 999, 31st of December, where Pope Sylvester confirms all the regular privileges of a great German monastery. Same thing with Emperor Otto III in year 999, when he visits Rome, talks with imperial monks of Farfa. No mention of the end of the world. Medieval reporters, historians, church members, politicians, aristocratics, common people, no one mentions in the primary sources the advent or belief of the end of the world in year 1000. Did some occasional preacher believe it and spoke about it? Yes, but what we do know from loads of different documents, just to mention one, Abbon of Fleury in France in 998, is that the church would shut them up.
Before we dive into today's episode, it's worth reminding ourselves of the huge political and social advancements of the last century that allow us to look back and condemn the incredibly evil and inhumane atrocities of the past.
See, that's what I mean. This is the kind of approach that we have throughout this entire channel. Evil, horrible past, so basically bringing up modern political ideologies and trying to force them into the past to judge the past. That is not a neutral stance. Let's see how he continues it.
Only by looking back can we see how far we've come towards building a world that is safe and accepting of everyone.
Yeah, I'm very safe. We are under constant threat of nuclear war. People get bombed. The number of deaths that have to do with the First and Second World War alone in the 20th century would make any medieval major battle look like a misunderstanding. It would probably make medieval kings pale if they saw the numbers or the destructive power of modern weaponry. But yeah, they were so violent, we're so peaceful.
Throughout history, there have always been people who belong to the LGBTQ community.
That's exactly what I mean when I say projecting modern ideas into the past. Let's make this one 100% clear. Throughout history, there have always been gay, lesbians, bisexuals. Always. But saying that throughout history or in the medieval period there were members of the LGBT community is nonsense, because the LGBT community did not exist. You're projecting a modern ideology together with all the baggage that comes with into the past. You're basically doing a recruiting of the dead. Now let me show you why that doesn't work. And I'd like to underline here as a disclaimer, I absolutely have no problem with talking about people who were gay, people who were lesbian, but even historical figures that have been purposely erased from the past. Absolutely, if they're there, let's talk about it, but we don't need to project modern ideology onto them. Reason number one, there are already among the living people who are gay or lesbian or what have you, and do not feel they belong to the LGBTQ community. That is because when you say that you belong to the LGBTQ community, you're also ascribing to a set of political ideologies that just because you're gay, it doesn't automatically mean that you want to ascribe to or that you agree with. And if you are a member of the LGBTQ community watching this, well then you should respect these people's opinion, because it should be part of what you call gay rights. He's a gay person, he doesn't want to belong, it's his right. The second reason is trying to apply these ideologies onto people who are dead. So you're trying to recruit people into the movement who are dead and cannot object. My level of confidence is sky high when I say that if we were to resurrect a homosexual person from the medieval period right now, and we asked him to tell us about his homosexuality, of course we would have to first make sure that he knows that he's in a safe place and we're not going to burn him at the stake, but let's say that we managed to convince him, he would probably tell us, yes, I'm attracted by other men. But if you asked him, okay, so what would be your preferred pronoun? Do you know you can identify as a woman? He would look at you and be like, what? Because he's not a member of the LGBTQ community, including every single aspect. So, what things would he agree with the LGBTQ community? Well, the fact that he doesn't want to be murdered, he doesn't want to be mistreated, and he wants to live his life openly. Absolutely. But everything else that is connected to the LGBTQ community and movement would be extremely difficult to even comprehend for a medieval person.
Knights. The circumstances in which knights were trained would have encouraged an intimacy between the noble youths. They were taught to live together as a brotherhood and tutored by an older male. The connection between other bands of knights and homosexuality makes it conceivable that same-sex relationships were common and accepted among knights and the nobility in England and Europe during the early and high Middle Ages.
And the reason why that doesn't make sense is because these people were brought up in a society that was extremely religious and it was extremely condemning of same-sex relationships. So that would be what most people had in their heads. On top of that, just because you train with a group of guys, that doesn't mean that that very training is gonna make you gay. You're either gay or you're not, regardless of where or how you train. Did it ever happen historically that there was a knight who was gay? I want to say absolutely yes, it probably did happen. But to say that it was common and encouraged, you need to back up this statement, documented evidence, which you don't have because, as you say, it's really difficult to find stuff like this because they were persecuted. And the very fact that you have an entire video where you talk about the persecution self-defeats your point.
The arrest of the Templars, including their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, in Paris. Keen to turn the medieval people against them, the order was accused of what were thought at the time to be the most heinous of crimes, such as denying Christ, spitting on the cross, taking part in indecent kissing and homosexuality.
Case in point, if homosexuality is considered by the people as one of the most heinous crimes in the Middle Ages, explain to me how then you justify your previous statement when you say that it was common and accepted. by the knights. Which one is it? There are two positions that you can take when you want to make content about gay, lesbians, bisexual, and all the rest, every other letter throughout history. You can have a historical, truthful approach when you tell things how they are. Spoiler alert, persecution, mutilation, dehumanizing torture, horrible stuff that happened to these people. Or you can try and do the second approach, which is, oh no, it was always accepted. It was fine. It was acceptable and beautiful and everyone accepted it. Everyone was cool with it. The second approach is false. But at least if you stuck to that, I could respect the continuity, the coherence of your creations. You are using both. You just talked about how people were persecuted and mutilated and humiliated in the medieval period because they were gay. Then you tell me, oh no, but among knights it was encouraged. In fact, it was accepted and common. And then 4 seconds later, he has an entire chapter on persecution. You gotta make your mind up, mate. If you want to talk about the historical truth of people who were attracted by the same sex, you've got to talk about the persecution without trying to make up a world where it was always nice and accepted. Because if you do that, you're disrespecting the suffering that these people went through. You know what I think? I think I should be making a video about homosexuality in the medieval period. Then of course there is the part where he pushes the myth of the Anglo-Saxons being dirty on his video about hygiene in the Middle Ages, which is generally speaking okay, but then of course he has to add the myth.
A lot of the information that we have about the Vikings was written by Christians who had an obvious bias against the Scandinavians and portrayed them as wicked pagans. But in reality, the Vikings were actually much cleaner than the Anglo-Saxons, who ironically regarded them as dirty savages. At that time, the Saxons would only bathe perhaps once or twice a year.
The Anglo-Saxons did not bathe once or twice a year. This myth has grown probably out of the legal requirement for late medieval Christians to attend confession at least once a year, but in reality, there are some places like, for example, the town of Bath, where the old Roman baths were still operational and continued to be used until the late 17th century. So did the Anglo-Saxons bathe every day? No, probably not. Did the Anglo-Saxons bathe as frequently as the pagan Danes? Once again, probably not. But considering all the evidence we have from the period, is it plausible to think that an Anglo-Saxon would bathe at least once a week? Very likely.
At what age was someone considered to be old in the Middle Ages? If we look at the work of historian Georges Minoy regarding the data he collected from the 5th century of the men and women who survived childhood, the average age of death for a man was 44 years, and for a woman was just 34 years. So it's probably true that for the medieval common people, living above the age of 50 was unusual. Maybe we should leave the last words of this video to the historian Georges Minoy, who asked, quote, "How many men and women could have slipped through the tight meshes of the nest cast by death? Meshes woven of the malnutrition, famines, epidemics, wars, lack of hygiene, medical ignorance, and high infant mortality. And wonder how anyone born in the Middle Ages made it through to old age at all." Thank you for watching this episode of Medieval Madness. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next week for another video. Cheers!
This idea that medieval people died young, with women not going beyond age 34, this idea that medieval people died young is once again a massive myth, particularly when you just talk about it like this without giving full-on explanation of what an average age at death is. So just to debunk it very quickly, the first problem is the misunderstanding of what an average is, in the sense that in the medieval period the high infant mortality will bring down the average at one end of the age spectrum, but these numbers are related to early death rather than differences in total lifespan. So once a new baby is born and he's in the Middle Ages, the chances of the baby dying are much higher than they would be today. But as long as the kid survives, then his expectation of life actually increases dramatically. There is much more to say about it, but I don't want to make this video infinite. The only thing is that to me, after watching this channel, I'm noticing a lack of research, generally speaking myths that have been regurgitated onto the platform, and a very strong political push. I'd like to repeat, this is not an attack at the person. I have no hate or ill intent or any desire to belittle or shame the creators on this platform, but I've got to say, I cannot recommend this channel. If you want to go and subscribe anyways and check it out because you like it, feel free. You will find links in the description. Anyways, I think we've seen enough. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're not yet a member of this community, become a noble one. Subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. Don't forget to check out the link in the description below to take advantage of the great offer by Curiosity Stream. Stay curious, and thank you so much for watching. And remember, the Metatron has spread its wings. Goodbye.